Treated well, I guess.
Wait a minute, let's see here. So many piles, and I can't remember which one. Okay, let's call ourselves to order. It is 6 o'clock, almost on the dot, or almost about a half a minute afterwards. So, to conduct our business for the month of June. We have the agenda and the time to review it. So, is there a motion to adopt the agenda?
We have to identify ourselves still.
Jeannie's here.
Yeah.
So,
I can see you.
and you're second, so we're all in agreement. So the agenda is adopted. Then we have one public comment that has been, is it emailed in? Is that how
Yes,
it's done?
it was emailed in.
And I'll ask Heather to read it for us, please.
This public comment is from Danny McIntosh, 5 Sunrise Lane in Burnsville. And he says, engineering oversight for the waste treatment plant is a must. A 3% water sewer rate increase is a start, but like the pandemic, the difficulties are not over. I do not see the regular ordinances on the website, only zoning, flood, and sign. That was our only public comment.
Okay, so we have heard the public comment. We'll move on. Before we move on to approving the minutes, we're happy to see that Michelle Ball has webbed in with us, and it's nice to see you, Michelle.
I'm not sure.
Hello. Okay, I also see the other three. But anyway, we're not ready yet for your report. I just wanted to welcome you.
Okay. Can you hear me? I can't tell if I'm muted or not.
Yes, you are. You're fine.
Okay, cool.
Very good. Okay, so we have 4 sets of minutes, May 7th, 14th, 20, and 26th, that we've had the opportunity to read. Are there any corrections to the minutes, or do we approve them as read? Yes, Bud.
I need clarification on our May meeting
Which one?
about John's, our regular May meeting.
Okay.
Is that the 7th?
It should be the
Yes.
7th, yes.
We, it's about John's compensation. Our minutes say he will be compensated. I am smothering to death. And it's at $300, $350 a month. But in the notice that went out to us prior to that meeting, it said he would be paid bi-weekly. Is it $350 a month, or is it $700 a month?
No, it's $350.
It is $350.
Yes.
It said that.
Yes.
But I was thinking that that notice we got prior said it could be bi-weekly, which would be $700 a month.
No, bi-weekly, it's $350, but he's getting paid bi-weekly.
Oh, okay.
It's
So
$350.
you'll get half of that.
Yes. Yeah.
All right. Bi-weekly.
Yeah.
Okay, I just wanted that clarification.
Okay, is there any other question, clarification, comment for the minutes? Okay, is there a motion for us to approve the minutes as presented?
I make a motion to approve the minutes as presented.
Okay, is there a second to that?
No, second.
Okay, we're all in agreement. Okay, so Jeannie, thank you for the 4 sets of minutes. They're approved as read and presented. So we will move on to our next item. We're going to open. We don't have to leave the session. With Heather, we talked about the process. I'm just going to declare that we are going to open now for a public hearing, which is a closeout on the Peterson Trailer Park Sewer Line Rehabilitation Project. And we have Michelle Ball here to give us the final report on the project summary. So Michelle, we welcome you and we will enjoy your report.
Well, thank you, and thank you for having me this way. I know things are difficult right now. But basically, this project, this was the town's first CDBGI project as they are right now. Things changed a few years ago, and I think it went pretty smoothly. What the town received $900,000 back in, I think it was 2000 and it was 2016 project. So in early 2017, you all received $900,000 to put in new sewer line within the Peterson Trailer Park, which was failing on a daily basis. I know we went out to inspect and, there were repairs going on as we were inspecting. And they had old 40-plus-year-old Orangeburg piping that was there. And that's basically basically pressed cardboard in a way, piping that lasted for 40 years. But the project was able to put 2,000 linear feet of 8-inch sewer lines and another 1,842 linear feet of service lines, 18 new manholes, and 52 service connections that are serving 45 households within that trailer park. The CDBG funding it has to help low and moderate income residents. And the minimum is 51% low and moderate income. With Peterson Trailer Park, it was 98.3%. If we were able to catch one person at home, it probably would have been 100% low and moderate income. So everybody in that trailer park was below 80% or below 80, earned less than 80% of the county median income as set up by HUD or as determined by HUD. Projects complete, came in under budget. Out of the $900,000 that the town received, $744,072.68 were spent. $528,541.14 went towards the construction. $163,370 went for engineering. That includes the design and all the construction oversight, the bidding process. And $82,161.54 went towards the administration, doing the environmental and doing the engineering report. There are $125,927.32 in unspent funds that will be deobligated. That's the term that DEQ and Commerce likes to use for those funds that aren't spent. They basically go back into a pool of money that will be used to fund other projects in the future.
Well, that's a very thorough report. Thank you very much, Michelle.
Well, you're welcome.
We do have one public comment. I'll ask Heather to read it.
That actually, Madam Mayor, that public comment is not for this public hearing, it's for the next one. So there were no public comments that came in, but I will tell you under the amended statute,
yes,
if we take public comment at a public hearing or just regular public comment via the email, then we have to, after we close the public hearing, wait another 24 hours before we can take any action. The action that Michelle will actually need is for us to sign some closeout documents, to authorize the mayor to sign some closeout documents. And we plan to bring that back on the 25th at our meeting.
Our next meeting. Is that right?
Yes, the next meeting on the 25th. So.
Okay. So, Michelle, we thank you for the very good report.
If that is it, I will say goodbye. And is there no other questions?
Do we have any questions for Michelle? I think we're clear as a bell.
Okay. I've got a birthday party to go to, so I'm in. My nephew turns 19 today, so we're having a small little birthday party.
Well, have fun. Thank you.
You all stay safe. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for joining us.
All right. And just close the hearing.
well, I thought we were gonna, we went to the second one.
No.
No.
No,
Okay,
this
so
is a
but
separate.
we will close this public hearing and go to the second public hearing, which I will open, which is for the proposed amendments to the zoning ordinance and the sign ordinance for the town of Burnsville. And I will, yield to you, Heather, on that.
Okay, so we've been working on this for some time and COVID has stepped in and got us a little bit off schedule. But if you remember back towards the first of the year, you sent some issues. We sent some issues to the planning board and the planning board reviewed them and came back with some changes that we wanted to make to the sign ordinance and also amendments to our zoning ordinance. And I'm just going to briefly summarize what those are. And then we have one public comment that I will read for that.
Okay.
The sign ordinance changes were really housekeeping issues. We're simply moving repetitive regulatory language in section 1.3 regarding the definition of electronic message boards from the text of the ordinance into the sign regulation chart. As we kept looking at this ordinance, we have everything typed out, and then there was a chart that had everything typed out in it again, and we felt like it was much clearer and easier for people to look at if they just had the language once and the chart to follow. So the chart gives you the zone and what kinds of signs you can have and what kind of regulations surround that sign. The language itself is not going to change, just where it appears in the ordinance. So it'll be moved out of text into the chart. The other amendment to the sign ordinance is of the same nature. We're proposing to remove some repetitive text and place it in the chart. And the chart, in this case, actually had to be amended to include zone C3, which is our newest zone, and R10, which were left out of the chart. We had the language in the text about them, but they weren't actually appearing in the chart. So that would be the sign ordinance amendments that are proposed. Moving on to the zoning amendments, they deal with 4 changes. The first is adding a definition of modular homes to our Article 4 definitions. The second is adding the off-frame modular homes to the list of allowable structures in Article 8, which is what regulates R10 or residential districts, and requiring some construction regulation of those homes in that R10 district. The third is deleting the land use density, yard, and height requirement chart from Article 9, which is the design guidelines, and relocating that same chart in Article 10 so that the requirements will apply to R10 structures as they were intended to originally. And this had to do with setbacks. We've always had setbacks for residential houses, and when the new guidelines were passed, one place, the design guidelines said, here's the setbacks for residential housing, but then the provision on residential housing said none of the design guidelines applied to residential housing. So we definitely wanted the setbacks to remain a requirement. And then the fourth change would be adding accessory buildings as an allowable structure in District C3 for existing or newly constructed single-family dwellings, and to make that regulation the same as it is for single-family dwellings in R10. And that basically an accessory building would be an outbuilding. That regulation would be the same in C3 as it is for all of our accessory building, accessory structure regulations throughout the ordinance. So we did have one public comment on that.
Yes, would you like to share
And this is again from former Mayor Danny McIntosh, from the proposal number 6CI, such uses or structures shall be located in the rear yard. And that has to do with the accessory buildings. In the current ordinance in R10 where they're allowed, and in C2 where they're allowed, it says they have to be in the rear of the main structure, the house. He says, please consider flexibility and discretion for this rule. There are situations where sides or even front yards would work well, such as when neighbor's rear yard abuts your front yard or the side yard is separated from the neighbors by a hedge or tree line. There are a multitude of different situations in our neighborhood. I thank all town employees and each of you for your service, Danny. Just to address that briefly, Brian and I had a discussion about it. Because this is only dealing with the change to C3 to make it compatible with R10 and C2, we feel like if you want to make, to have the planning board look at being, people being allowed to move accessory structures somewhere other than their backyard, then it should be across the board change. We shouldn't just change it for C3, which is the only thing that this deals with. We should look at it as a change in every residential district or every place we allow residences. So with that being said, we're again under the same rule where you have to allow the additional 24 hours for more comment. So we won't vote on these amendments until the June 25th meeting. But, and at that time, if you all want us to pass this and then go to the planning board and ask them to look at allowing accessory buildings in different areas besides the rear yard, we can certainly do that.
Okay. Are there any comments from the board members since it is a public hearing? We've had one public input, but
Well, I would think that would be something the planning board should look at. It shouldn't be just up to us. I don't think anybody, you're talking about accessory buildings on properties.
Detached, that'd be detached
Yes,
accessory,
I
yeah.
mean, that could be a sticky thing, putting stuff inside or front yards, I would think. I think that should take a lot of thinking about. But I do think it's probably correct that you're going to do it for one area, it should be maybe across the board. I don't know, but it's something I think that zoning and planning board should look at, not just us. You know, I personally know so little about zoning, but I want it to be whatever looks best for,
so it's going to go to the planning board.
No, we're not making any decision about anything going to the planning board tonight. These changes, these proposed changes have already gone to the planning board and received their seal of approval.
yes, I'm talking about this.
And what we're saying is Mr. McIntosh's comment was maybe you ought to look at not just restricting these accessory buildings only to the back. And what we're saying, if we want to look at that in the future for all dwellings, then we could do that at a future date. We can discuss that on the 25th. But these would come up for your adoption or approval or disapproval on the 25th.
Okay. So, having said that and having listened to Danny's comment, I will close the public hearings we've just had. And we will look at action and further comments on the 25th. Is that right, Heather?
Mm-hmm. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so we will move on to item number 6. Excuse me. This concerns the Yancey COVID-19 Response Fund, Small Business Assistance. We have a resolution authorizing appropriation for economic development to Yancey County Economic Development Commission. As you know, we had the hearing and we've given time, and so this is when we will adopt that resolution. Now, that resolution is in your packet. Am I not correct? Right here. Yes. And Jamie, we're glad you're with us. Besides the resolution, we have the agreement between the town of Burnsville and the Yancey County Economic Development Commission. Now, do we need to have any comments on that? Jamie, is there anything you'd like to say to that? Or?
Good evening, first of all. Good to be with you. No, Heather and I have had a chance to review the text of that as it's drafted. And we're certainly 100% in agreement with the terms of it, unless there are any questions that council has about the terms of the agreement, but we're more than happy with it as it is drafted.
Okay, so we would adopt a resolution and the agreement, is that correct?
And yes, someone could make a motion to adopt the resolution and the agreement.
Yes. Is there a motion to adopt what you have in the packet, which is the resolution and also the agreement?
I'll make that motion.
Second, any comments? Okay, are we all in agreement? We are. Okay, we have to make a budget amendment because of the funds that we are giving to that, so I will yield to Leslie.
Okay, it's in your packet. What I'm doing is actually just kind of a line item transfer. I'm decreasing the contribution to the general reserve fund balance.
Yeah.
It's about 25,000, and then I'm actually adding a line, and I let the county COVID response fund, an increase in that by 25,000.
Okay. So let's see, I can sign that, is that correct?
You just need a motion to approve the budget amendment
Okay,
first.
so is there a motion to approve the budget amendment from Leslie concerning our $25,000 donation?
I'll second.
There's a second, we're all in agreement. Okay, so it's unanimous. Well, thank you. We'll now move on to our administrators' updates. So, I believe it's your turn.
Back to me.
Yeah.
Okay, COVID-19 response, or our COVID-19 update. And I'm gonna just couple that with town hall operations to be brief. We've opened the downstairs billing window back up and brought full staff back in for the whole day. We placed markers on the floor 6 feet in distance for customers to wait to pay their bill. We put up signage encouraging people to wear masks in the building. We have also encouraged through our public announcements and media outlets that people continue to use the drop boxes, mail, or website to pay their bills when they can, just to try to keep the traffic down a little bit. We've created a barrier using tables and trays that will slide through the windows through the payments so that staff and customers are not handing stuff back and forth directly to each other. And we're providing hand sanitizers. And all of our town employees are back working full-time from town hall now. We're not doing any more at-home work. The governor extended his executive order that municipal utility providers cannot disconnect residential customers for non-payment or charge late fees through July 29th. We're pleased and very grateful that our customers are continuing to pay their bills in a timely manner. We've not had any requests for payment plans thus far. As you're aware, the county received from the state an allocation of coronavirus relief funds to help offset the cost of dealing with COVID-19. These funds can only be used for COVID-related expenditures. We submitted a request to Jeff Howe with Emergency Management for the county to purchase on behalf of the town 4 handheld electrostatic sanitizer units to use in our police vehicles and possibly other vehicles, and 1 cart unit that's a larger unit that could be used to sanitize the town hall and the town center. I had an email from him today saying that he was waiting for Lynn to give him the okay to place an order. And because the county is also going to be purchasing some of these units for their facilities. He said there was an 8 to 12 week backlog on the orders, but hopefully we'll get it here in a timely manner. Should be here in time for flu season, so it'll be good. But they're the small handheld units. They have a solution, and I think the ones he'd done a lot of research on it, looked at, were made by the Clorox company, And they
Oh, okay.
will sanitize your car. It's almost like a fogger, you could think of that. It would sanitize your car or anything. So that is pretty much all I have with regards to COVID and town hall operations. Y'all have any questions about that?
Sounds very good. That's going smoothly.
So far, so good. We've been very blessed to not have anybody become ill. In your packet, we provided you with the proposal that was sent to us by Servline Utilities for the water leak protection program. I'll speak just briefly on it. The proposed fee for protection on a once a year water leak adjustment would be $2 a month for up to $500 of coverage. What that does is if you have a water leak, they will adjust back to what your normal average bill would be, and then the insurance would pay up to $500 over and above that. It's $2.55 a month for up to $1,000 of coverage. And if we were to adopt a policy, we would make a choice. The council would make a choice as to how much protection we wanted for our customers. Those are the rates if we allow the water customers to opt in or out of the program. If we make participation mandatory for everyone, there's a 10% discount to that fee. Folks who don't participate, if we gave people the option, if they don't participate in the program, they will not get a water adjustment during the year if they have a leak. Servline, included in this proposal, Servline also offers other types of protection programs that individual property owners can purchase directly from them. So if you want to buy insurance to have your line fixed or your sewer line fixed, or water line fixed, whatever, you can do that. So part of the proposal is that we allow them to sort of use us as a reference and have the town's logo saying, oh, the town does this and endorses this program. So, this item is just for discussion at this point. We want to give you all additional time to review the proposal and look at everything in it, because I know it came in kind of late. And then if you want a Servline representative, the lady we've been dealing with is Jenna Haslett, can either WebEx in or maybe come to our June 25th meeting, answer questions, discuss everything with you. They would bill us monthly, was my understanding, for the whatever premiums that we decided, whether we would adopt a policy that people could opt in or out, or whether we'd adopt one that everybody was just in.
Could I ask a question?
Yeah.
How many incidences do we have in a year, say, of customers having this great problem? Where they'll just all of a sudden have a huge water bill and it's caused by some. This last year, the water billing staff has told us that we had $30,000 worth of forgiveness, I guess. And how many customers did that involve?
They said there was it was 106. Yeah, 106 over a pretty long period of time. It was.
I just wondered.
So yeah, and I believe it was 106. She said it was 106 over. She talked to her separately. I haven't, over a 3-year period. But then she said last year was $30,000 alone that we lost in revenue, making adjustments for folks. So I can get you firmer numbers for each year. Well, and in a way, it seems like
we forgave that much debt we took on for 100 and something.
But if we had this service,
they would require, and it's my understanding from the proposal, they deal with the customer as far as making a claim. You'll have and they will do all the advertising and things like that, let them know how to do it. They'll make a claim, directly with the company. The company will require them to show they fixed the problem, whether it be a leaky toilet or a faucet or a line that actually broke.
And if the customer did not take advantage of this, then they would have a leg stand on and you could just say, no, you have to pay the bill.
Pretty
What-
much.
And we don't give you a break.
Would that not be aggravating for the billing end of it if we allowed them to opt in or out? Because wouldn't that change? I mean,
I will say that the
Somebody- somebody
yeah.
could say, well, I don't want that, but then next month they say, well, yeah, I might
Add
want to
me
get in
on,
on
that kind
that.
of
Wouldn't
thing.
it change the billing?
Couldn't they do it on an annual basis? I mean, like each year you would have to.
Opt in or opt out. That's
I don't know.
pretty
Because
much
I like for them to have that option, but I was just thinking from a billing standpoint, that would be a nightmare.
Well, I will say it is the billing staff's preference that everybody be included.
Well, obviously.
But yeah, it is, because it makes it easier for them, and then it's easier
Well, it
to
would
just tell
probably be more
people.
for us too, or our staff at town hall, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it's, yes, no, our staff is the one that's saying they would like for it to just be everybody.
Yeah.
Then what happens if you have somebody has this huge water bill and they just can't ever pay it? And then,
Well, if it was above, say, if we chose the $500 program and it was above that, well above that, and we couldn't, then, I mean, we would have the option to do some kind of a payment plan with somebody like that. I mean, it's just not forgiving it, walking away from it completely.
guess what?
Other, people have kind of weighed in and said, well, I don't think it's fair if I don't want it, that I should have to have it on my bill. You do, if everybody does it, you do get that 10% discount. And I think that 10% actually comes back to the town.
It's not fair until you need it.
It's not fair until you need it. It is. And I mean, we had one this week that was over $1,000. And we do,
I guess I'm a little confused. Do we, well, I mean, I know we're gonna vote on this later, but do we, excuse me, do we decide as a board it will be for everybody and they're required, or? we
yes,
decide
you will adopt a policy, and the policy will either state it's going to be included in everybody's water bill, or, you'll have an opportunity to opt out. And they say they will provide us with information so that people will know they can opt in or out. There'll be a procedure that people will have to go through. Say, no, I don't want this.
Seems like it'd be easier for billing if, like I said, once a year, here's your chance to either, if you've had it for a year, you can opt out for the next year, or you didn't do it I mean, it seems like, I can see why it could be very frustrating, Russell, for the girls.
Well, I think,
I like that too, and I like it being optional because we're fixing to do a rate increase anyway.
Right.
So
That's what I was, is this
there's
a good
something
time
else
when we're
that's
getting
gonna-
ready to
Right.
raise the rate?
that is true.
That's what's gonna be my next
But I agree
question.
with Mayor, I think it should be on a yearly basis. I don't think it should be
Otherwise,
open
you're pulling
Yeah.
your
every
hair out.
No,
month.
and I think the policy would say that, that each year you will have the option to come in or come out. Now, I will say this, they tout, the company says in places where they run this program, and I know that they have it in Weaverville, and they have it all over the United States in different locations, but that they typically have about a 96% rate of people who want in the program, and that amount increases as the program goes on and people see the benefit of it. It just has to take one time that you're staring, you've gone to the beach or something, you come back and your toilet's leaked and you're staring at an $800 water bill,
Now,
makes
it
sense.
costs the town nothing aside from their,
It costs the town nothing, to participate in the leak protection program. That is correct.
And these, these other, possible insurance that people could opt into, are they as affordable as the $2 a month, $2.55?
Let me go.
I found them to be a little expensive where it goes from your meter to your house. It was like $9 a month for your month, and then it was
Right,
like,
for the line.
for your sewer. Of course, that wouldn't, people in town wouldn't be paying something for sewer because that's a but then you can do the septic tank if you live outside. I mean, there are a lot of, get town water. but-
Right. This service line
They're more
protection
expensive.
plan, yes, they are, $5.99 per month on a homeowner rate. And it includes locate, repair, replace leaking exterior water. Eligible properties are single-family townhomes, multifamily, up to $10,000 in coverage. No
My eyes
annual,
were crossed.
yeah. And then, but the external, the sewer and septic line is what's the $9.99. So if somebody who lives outside of town has city water but doesn't have sewer, then, you know, they would be able to do that. And then interior plumbing, say you had a toilet that burst while you were somewhere and it flooded your bathroom or whatever, is $10.99. And that's up to 3,000 coverage per service call.
So if you had the $2 or more, plus you had these other things, if you started adding them all on, you could come up with quite a little bill.
But that would not be
That's a
exactly,
personal
but
choice.
that's a personal choice, yes.
And we would probably, if we opted to do that, it would be probably like the yearly renewal too, like you could opt in for a whole year, you couldn't just fluctuate.
Yeah, I think that would be the way they would do it, but we would have no say-so over any of these other
That's
products.
personal
Oh,
choice.
That's personal choice. We just are allowing them, you know, to use our good name to reach out to people and offer them these extra products.
So say if somebody did want the $9.99, they
Right.
would pay that directly to the company.
Now-
Through us.
I will tell you, residential is the $2 option. Then if you go to commercial, it increases. And then if you go to multi-occupancy commercial, like a strip mall, it's even more than that. So, it would be different. Residential is the $2. Commercial is $4.10, and then multiple commercial, like a strip mall or something like that, would be $8.20.
So, would we like for this, lady to, excuse me, zoom in for us on the 25th, or what's your preference? 'Cause we will need to, decide on the 25th, am I correct?
Yeah, we could have something, you know, ready for y'all to look at in terms of a policy on the 25th. And you could discuss and ask with her, and then you can just decide up or down, this is good, this is not. You know.
But we would need to let Heather know so that she can set up the lady to be able to, zoom in on us.
And she said some communities want a presentation, some don't.
I think it's pretty well cut and dry.
I mean, it is, it's pretty well laid out. I just, you know, I'm reading the same proposal you are, and we had some questions too. How do y'all bill us, that sort of thing? If you think of other questions, you could reach out to me and I could reach back out to her if you don't wanna actually schedule her for something.
Well, it's gonna be a busy day when we meet on the 25th, so.
Okay.
I hate for us to add more onto a bill at the same time we're gonna be raising rates. That, I hate to do that.
And the 10% discount, I mean, in the grand scheme of it, if somebody chooses to do this, that 10% is gonna be, well, $30 a year. It's not
Yeah, I
gonna, you
mean,
know,
on $2, it would be, on a residential, it would be $1.80, so. But that 10% comes back to the town.
And I hate for us to be losing $30,000 a
That's-
year on forgiving. Are we mandated
No.
to forgive people
No.
big overages? What is how much mercy do we have to show people? I mean.
None. By law, none.
Our policy is to give one a
One
year.
a year.
One a
year.
year. And I don't know that that's written down anywhere. That's just been how it's evolved over time. We probably, either way, we probably need, however we go, we probably need to have something in writing so it's good for people to follow.
Maybe we should have a policy. I mean, I don't know. I didn't realize we were.
I think people take advantage of this. I mean, for that amount of money.
When maybe people should be taking care of their plumbing leaks or whatnot. a little more.
Well, yeah, but they like to blame somebody.
Well, I know it, but
Well, I had a neighbor, that had a $1,500 water bill, and to this day, I don't know if he knows where the water leak was at. Larry Bird,
It's all underground. I mean, it's hard to know.
but it was only one time, and
That was the weird thing.
it was really weird, and you know.
And I
Not
believe you got
happened again.
forgiveness.
I mean, well, and you would, and for a situation like that, if we went with a $500 and we adjusted it back to what his normal bill would have been, and then up to 500 above that, but whatever was over that would still be his responsibility.
Even
You
with
know.
this.
Even with this, if it went above the 500, I mean, if you went to, they gave us options for 500, 1,000, and 2,500. Most people don't do the 2,500. They said that's pretty. That's pretty rare.
I'm a little iffy. I'm a little iffy on this. I'm gonna have to really look at it. I'm kind of like Bunny. We're gonna raise our water rates.
Yeah,
I gotta think about it.
I think it should be optional.
Why don't we, it will be on our agenda to discuss it again, so we have the packet.
And that's why we wanted to give everybody time to be able to really digest what it was before we, you know, made any kinds of decisions. So, okay, so we'll,
Is there any other discussion or comments for Heather or?
So if Larry had the $2 thing, and he had the $1,500 leak, it's only gonna pay.
the coverage, I mean, it's just like any other insurance. The coverage is, the limit on the coverage is $500.
So
you
he
pay up
would
to
still be paying
$500.
the 1,000.
Yep.
Okay, gotcha.
But I don't know that we have, and that's something we can look at. I think probably they could, couldn't they? How many were over? That's probably something we should be looking at. What's the range? A lot of them are not in that really high.
That guy that day was $1,100.
Yeah, yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
So people may want to look, we may want to look at the $1,000.
She said that seems like the five would take care of most of it.
Yeah, we did ask that. We asked Jackie, and she felt like the 500 would take care of most of the adjustments she sees.
With the 1,000, it was $2.55.
Yeah.
What was the difference in the premiums?
$2.55 a month.
There's an extra 55 cents. Yeah. So,
Well, it's something to think about. We'll be discussing it again, so.
Have you looked at what some of the surrounding, as far as the amount of coverage in the surrounding areas?
Weaverville is 1,000, but their rate is not as high as ours because they have more customers. You know, it's spread out over everybody.
And
Did they do optional or mandatory?
Theirs is optional. Theirs is optional.
But they, oh yeah, you said they
And
had
when
like
I-
90-something%.
Yeah.
when our rate goes up, what is the average bill gonna be?
$44.28. For
From,
but just a regular 3,000 is the standard.
yeah, so how much is that? I can't even remember, I don't even think
What is the regular
what's the
bill?
regular rate? I mean, for, you know, the lowest rate now for
That's it.
residents is,
It's
It's
43 right
Yeah,
now.
it's
43.
43 now, it's going to 44.28.
which isn't a bad hike.
Yeah.
So that would make it 46.
46.28.
That's almost $50. That's what people say. It's almost $50.
And
Well, that's all I'm gonna say. I'm sorry, I've talked too much.
That's no, it's okay. That's what we want to hear, are our thoughts. Because we will be coming back to it on June the 25th. So give it some thought and we'll continue to discuss. And if you have anything that you would like for Heather to ask the lady, we're not gonna have her pipe in or whatever, but talk to her about it. She can ask the lady to get back with us on, June 25th, so. Now, we're going
The last thing that I have is a resolution to rescind the agreement for a future lease to Home Place Brewery. If you remember, at the end of last year, Home Place had approached us about continuing to rent Area C for another venture as they were preparing to move Home Place to their new site on West Main. And council passed a resolution to enter into a future agreement to lease the space. Unfortunately, that's fallen through. So we need to rescind that resolution for the future lease to Home Place so we can move forward at looking at other options for the space.
So we need to approve this resolution. Heather.
Yes.
Okay, it's in our packet. So is there a motion to approve the resolution to rescind?
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Okay, are we all in agreement?
At this point, there aren't any, but we've had a couple people we've talked to, but there's not any viable, Chad, you would say, proposals for tenants on the table. And so staff and myself have been discussing several options, and we would like to just sort of not necessarily get a vote, but just a nod of approval that staff would kind of put together a committee and start looking at possible options for the space and report back to y'all at the August meeting.
So we don't need to vote on that. We just think it's a good idea. So that would be great, Heather.
That's all I have.
That was certainly enough. Okay, thank you, Heather. We'll move on to our department updates. Jeannie?
There's not much change from last month, really. I just think that it's pretty amazing that we just have 43,000 over the 10-year period left to be paid. We've been collecting at least one of these directions that we set in place. That's pretty much it. So it is surely, I guess, we'll get that.
So, okay, any questions for Jeannie? Leslie, we'll move on to you with finances, please.
Okay, I sent out the budget versus actual earlier, and that one's about one to sad shows these days. Anyway, and then we'll give you all a copy of this new proposed budget. I've done I've updated the increases. We went with a 3% overall for the water sewer rates instead of 5. And I built that in. So far with the general fund, we actually are projected to make 25,000 contribution to fund balance. You know, that work on cross our fingers. On water sewer, we are not doing a contribution to fund balance. We're just going to split the 120 that's left over in between the two capital outlay lines because we've got to work on AMRs, and then if there's anything it will be there and we can just put it in savings. That's it. It's really very tight. I mean, back through today on the expenses, just trying to make sure that, especially if they are town performance.
So we will officially vote on this on June 25th. All right, any questions for Leslie? We'll just ponder on it at the top of on the 25th. Okay, Niles, we see you there. Hello, how are you?
I'm very well. How about you all?
We're doing fine. How is everything going with the with our fire department and the building project?
Our operations side, we have finished all of the hydrant maintenance and testing for the year. We've begun hose testing that we have to do every year on all the hose and all the trucks. We have scheduled a ladder test for later in this month, so all of our testing will be completed this year. We have started meeting some on Monday nights and trying to maintain our social distance. We started back this. That's the operations side. We've got up to 180 calls as of today, and most of those recently have been assisting EMS, MVAs, and those types of things we have in the summertime. The building project, just to go over it a little bit, the grading has been pretty much completed to grade on the building site. There's still some slope work to be done. We've got a pretty big mountain of excess dirt over there off of Westover, that I think they're going to try to truck some of that out. You have a problem though. We have got some soil that is not probably going to meet specs, and so we're going to have to deal with that somehow or other. And it's probably going to be pretty expensive. I don't know if Russell wants to speak to that or Heather. I met with some folks one day this week about it. So if either one of those want to chime in, right now I don't know what the answer will be. And maybe Russell has talked to somebody since I have.
I did speak with Sam yesterday on the two options that we discussed on site earlier in the week. Neither one of those were good. However, today's test did look a little better than what previous tests looked like, and I think they got a couple 96s over there. Were you there with them, Niles, when they were doing the test? I know they got a 95 and a 96.
They got a 95 and 96. The only issue after that, Keith was having the one of the pieces of equipment go out and try and smooth out some of the bumps and
Yeah, the grader.
yeah,
I
the grader
saw
and,
that.
and it
Yeah, you know, I noticed that there was an area right there in the middle where it did pump really bad with just the motor grader on it. But it seemed like after you come out of that onto the most western part of that slab or pad, that it really hardened up. And I know that's an area that was undercut previously. And I feel like it'd probably pay us to, maybe go back to Sam. I know that the best dirt that we've had excavated thus far was what they took out of that cut today. We might be able, and I was talking to Ben as I was coming in here this afternoon. It might be an option to undercut that area and try to replace with some of that better soil and just see where we're at. I don't know. It's something that we can definitely. I was talking with Ben about it as I came in here, but I was running late, so I had to get on the phone. But
Is there too much water? I mean, what is?
no, it's the moisture content is where it needs to be. I mean, at first it was definitely too wet just because it rained every day for the past year. But I think we're at optimum moisture content now, aren't we, Niles? It's just that the dirt it's a BLE, the engineering firm calls it a light dirt. So it's a very light, and you can look at that cut slope over there. It's crazy. There's 4 different types of soil in that one cut slope. I mean, some of it looks like sand that come off Chalk Mountain. It's
Is
just
it like an impaction?
compaction.
Compaction,
Yeah,
not
compaction.
impaction. Compaction.
So the specs on this job is 98% compaction.
Yeah.
I know early on we were 90, what, Miles, 93. When we were having a moisture problem, they did plow and they really worked the soil. I mean, to the best that they could do, and we did get some 96s today. But the moisture content is optimal, but the dirt's just not.
So how do you fix that?
There was a couple different options that we discussed with Heather and Niles and I with the engineering firm along with McGill and the contractor. Neither of those two options were very cheap. I will say that. The cheapest of the two was 80 grand. So I don't know if you knew that or not, Niles, but that was the concrete treated price was like $82,000.
It's better than I anticipated. I was thinking more in the hundreds of.
Well, the other one was about 150, so it was about half of what the stone and matting price was. But like I said, I do want to talk to Ben and talk with Young McQueen and just see if that might be an option, because that's really tight on that western portion where they did undercut. I mean, it looked really good And again, that was just a motor grader on it. It wasn't a loaded truck. But,
So what happens if you don't fix that and you were to build anyway?
well, and we asked,
I don't guess you do.
we asked that question, and you know,
What happens?
Niles, you know, made the comment of we don't have any money, and, you know, we don't have any options, but you know, the building itself is not really a concern. They're not going to sign off on anything that's under that 98% because they're going to be liable. The building itself is not as much concern to them because you've got footers, you know, you're digging down into original soil. The building itself is not that much concern. The aprons is not that much of a concern. While it is a concern, it's not as much of a concern because it's concrete aprons. Concrete is more, I guess, better than asphalt. The concern is the parking lot and the roadways.
Yeah,
Your asphalt and stone base, and they will not sign off on it unless it meets that spec. So
it's the weight of everything, isn't it?
It
That'll
is.
be
yes, yeah.
using that.
So I'm gonna talk with them about that option now. Or if you want to go over there tomorrow and talk with them and just see if that might be an option. And if not, then I guess we kind of make a decision at that point if we want to just take on the liability or, I don't think Leslie's got $80,000 laying around anywhere that we can,
How would they have
use,
known that before,
it's,
would it have been core drillings? How would they know?
it's an unknown. I mean, it's just an unknown. Anytime you're dealing with soil, I mean, I would have bet the farm that it would have been great soil. You know, it's undisturbed. It was a tobacco patch and basically original ground for many years. But it's just a poor soil. I mean, Niles, you feel free to chime in if I've spoken incorrectly, but
So you can't add good soil to the bad soil.
you could if you had it. We don't have it over there. It would be going to a borrow site and getting additional fill. McQueen don't really have anything close, so that's really not a viable option at this point.
That's probably more expensive than it is to be to go off site, find soil, dig this out, haul it off and replace it. The big concern to me is that we can't get it to the point where they can excavate problems. We got to do something with it.
Well, we'll look forward to a good update, Russell.
Sorry, it's not good news, but the building pad is to grade. If anybody wants to ride by and see what they've done. When I say to grade, they left it at minus 13 inches, which is room for the stone and the concrete or asphalt. So it's basically 13 inches from finished grade. And like I said, we'll discuss it. Niles and I, or Heather, can discuss it with him. But I think that might be an option, Niles. I don't know. I just know that talking with Keith and Donald over there today, I went by first thing this morning, and that dirt that they were taking out was the best looking dirt that they've dealt with since they've started excavating. That might be an option. And I don't know how big of an area. Did you go over there when they clipped it with the grader?
No, I came back to finish that.
So all he had done was he had went through there about 3 blade widths, like probably 30 feet wide or something. And in that, the length of that, I would say half of it was pumping. Now it may be the whole width of that from the street all the way to the creek. It may be the whole width of that. And I don't know what kind of yardage that we're talking about, but we can, see if that might be an option. I know that will be definitely a cheaper option if it will work.
Well, we'll keep our fingers crossed. It's not much help, but
Yeah, I mean it's just an unknown. I mean, I hate it. It's just one of those things that you don't never know. You're dealing with dirt. Heather said, "Can we take it back?" That was what she asked the engineer. She said, "Can we send this dirt back?"
Both Keith and his grader said when they came on site, they thought this was going to be the long time.
They told me
This
the
happened.
same thing today now.
Well, we'll, rob a bank. Yes. Well, keep us posted.
Okay.
Susan Russell, please. Anything else you'd like to add to your report, Niles?
No, I think that's plenty.
It is, but thank you very much. Brian, we're to you now.
Okay, everyone hear me okay?
Yep.
Have you finished eating supper?
I'm hoping Amy's on that. I've been down here the whole time. With regards to updates with the police department, we had the event this week, which went very well on the square. I know Madam Mayor was in attendance, and if others were and I didn't notice you, there was a lot of masks out there, so it was hard to pick out individual people. But we were very pleased. We were prepared in case things had went a different direction. And again, we had discussed, I felt like if it was the ones that I knew that were organizing that particular event, that was the way it would go. We were just concerned about any outside influences. We had none of that. It was fine. We did have some assistance from other agencies, as a just in case type thing, but we didn't have any issues. Very pleased with how that went. Our officers are, trying to get back to the normal as much as it can. We've had, the court systems starting to start up this week, but we still are trying to just mostly focus on community policing and not take as much enforcement at the moment just because of the log jam. Only deal with the things that are very important to be dealing with, the log jam with the court system. With regards to zoning, still have some requests come in. Mostly these are renovation type requests and zoning stuff that we're doing there. Some sign permits that we've issued, and got a meeting this morning about maybe a new project at the other end of town that's just in the very beginning stages for a nonprofit. That's really the update that I have, unless anyone has any questions.
Well, I just want to thank you for a good evening on the square. Your policeman and the sheriff both did a very nice job, and it was well taken care of.
It was well attended, and we were pleased with how the event went.
Okay, we'll move on then to Dylan.
Yay.
Yes.
All right. So update on wastewater treatment plant. Basically, we're waiting for Genesis to get their bond back. And once that is done, they'll sign it, they'll send it to us, we'll sign it, and tentatively, right now, June 15th is start date if they can get that bond back in time. So we got Mountain Environmental on the schedule to come out on Tuesday to clean out our 3 plant in order for preparation for repairs. Adoption of the backbone cross connection control ordinance, motion to adopt it. Basically, the one we currently have is very basic, few words in there, nothing too crazy. Heather put this together for us, did a great job. If you have any questions regarding it, feel free to ask. Basically what a backflow is, it's put on businesses to not allow, like irrigation systems and stuff like that, to not allow any water to come back into our system. So if we have like a water main break and we connect back and we fix it and everything, and there's an air gap, and it sucks everything from a said business that has like chemicals that would be sucked into our system. And then that could cause harm to residents that are drinking the water. So that's what that's for.
So we need to adopt this resolution, is that correct?
It's an ordinance.
An ordinance.
Yes.
Okay. So,
And it will go into our chapter, or I guess chapter 50 of our general ordinances that deal with public works and water and sewer.
okay, so before you move on, we should probably pause and have a motion to adopt the ordinance.
Yes,
And it was in your packet.
I make a motion to adopt it. Ordinance.
Second.
Third and fourth bid. Okay, you have it. Thank you, Darren.
Thank you. And then the town parking lot where the retaining wall has been busted, and the light pole. That is, Young and McQueen sent a proposal out. We were waiting for the insurance company to get back to us to tell us how much they believe that it costs for their settlement. And then they gave us the number, which is $36,977.86. So Young and McQueen was able to revise their proposal and match that price to be able to perform the necessary actions to repair that retaining wall.
So we need to adopt their insurance settlement when.
We just need a motion to allow you to accept the settlement and sign the release and accept Young and McQueen's proposal.
Yes, it's in our package. So is there a motion that we?
So-
Bill, you're satisfied that that covers it, everything will be hunky-dory, right?
Yes.
Yes,
Was it the same amount? I mean,
The revised?
yeah,
Yes.
No, it came down.
but I mean in the amount of the
It's,
settlement.
yes. It matches perfectly.
so it's in order now.
Yes.
So we would want to accept Young and McQueen proposal of the insurance settlement for them to fix accordingly.
I'll make a motion that we accept it.
Okay.
And we authorize the mayor to sign the insurance settlement release.
Yes, excuse me about that.
You need a motion?
Well, all together, that would be all together,
Altogether.
so. Okay, so everyone's in agreement. I think most seconded. Okay, thank you very much. So I'll sign the insurance release.
And that's all I have unless anybody has questions for me.
We hope you had a good vacation.
What did you say was the tentative start date on the?
June 15th.
Okay, so Chad, I'm not gonna forget you this time, sitting over there in the corner.
I'm the sheriff who's asked, our
Sure.
facility is at the heart of these restrictions. And so we canceled or rescheduled 65 different dangerous events.
Oh, my word.
We had our first phase 2 event yesterday, adhering to all the restrictions, and that went well. We have 17 days in July, and we have 3 of the last 4 or 5 days in June. We do have events if we have them. We're kind of waiting on information on phase 3, but we've got a fair amount of rounds the rest of the year if allowed, and they hold. Some of the bigger ones in May, there's 4 or 5 in July that potentially cancel the restrictions or where it's not feasible for the organizers to feel like it's just not a good idea. But for the most part, we're pretty well booked if they get back on where we're at.
Okay. Well, at least we are trying to move along. So thank you, Chad, very
Sure,
much.
thank you.
Our council members report.
May I ask a question?
Sure,
What did they ever decide about a craft fair?
they're still deciding. It seems like they're leaning in the direction of doing the craft fair, maybe not as large, but, you know, it still is kind of up for discussion and but they're waiting for the governor on the 26th. He does his final report for that thing.
The email that I received from the chamber was that they were going to wait and make a decision on the 26th when they knew what the governor's.
The 26th of June?
Yes, this month. And I think they plan to keep it smaller. I don't know what that means exactly, but we will not mean,
Yeah, I just wondered.
If they have it, they're proposing, if they decide to have it, they're proposing to have a working group to talk about how they could do it, and Brian and Dylan will be part of that, so, for the
Yes,
town.
good luck, guys.
Thanks.
I would say that would be a gargantuan feat, but that's, you know.
Well,
I'll take that over the sewer plant.
I won't be participating, because I'm old.
well,
So, you know, have at it.
as you know, our events on the square are canceled for the summer evenings. And July the 4th, with Brian Girl and his patriotic music ensemble, we tentatively have him booked for the Saturday of Labor Day weekend, but it depends on the governor, it depends on the waves that come through, and so we don't know yet. We'll just have to play that by ear. As we know, the county is doing the fireworks. Spruce Pine is not. So that's going to affect, I'm sure, a lot of people coming this way, but be that as it is, that's the extent of my report as far as regretfully being no evenings on the square. We just hope that September will do something, but maybe not. We'll play it by ear. So, does anybody else have anything you'd like to share?
So, and I don't know, but this next phase, if it goes through, that wouldn't allow us to have anything like in July still, if it changed any year.
We don't, I mean, we just don't know, and I kind of doubt that he would, that they'll up the limit to like 500 people or to anybody and everybody. I mean, maybe they do, but we see the numbers kind of ticking up here as they've done more opening up. Today, his comments were, talking about the increased number in cases and increased number in hospitalizations, and I think we'll just have to see through this month where it goes. I mean, they could increase mass gatherings, but right now they're 25. There's some exceptions, but I don't see it going to unlimited, which is what we face when we're, having events on the square. We can't say, well, your car number, whatever, your person number 500, the rest of you turn around and go home. I mean, that would be very hard.
Well, Brian, did you feel that people were social distancing on Tuesday evening? I mean,
yeah, I mean, again, there was a lot of mask use out there, and I did see some social distancing, but then on the same hand, I had several come up and want to shake hands with me that were wearing masks, which felt kind of weird. It's just a strange time. Everybody's trying to figure out. They were doing a good job about trying to keep some distance, I believe, between groups of people, it seemed like.
But then the Friday before with the senior night, there was no mask, and
there was no mask to be found.
I don't know enough can of worms, but that was my question.
Yeah.
You can have this.
Yeah, that event was.
It's not the place for that.
It's kind of like you're damned if you do and damned if you don't.
Well, but that is an exception under the order. Gatherings for First Amendment protest or speech, because how that started was a totally different group was coming, to the Capitol and protesting and things like that. So they allow that. You can have unlimited, but not for festivals or fairs or things like that. Now they are allowing, if you have a stadium that can seat at least 500 people and you've got 2 exits and 2 entrances, then you can have larger gatherings there. That's one of the examples. I think that's for football, looking ahead. But,
yeah. I mean, I really hate it. It's just.
There are a lot of gray areas, and it's just not that
Niles, I want to see that puppy again.
They got a puppy. It's the cutest thing.
Oh.
Oh my goodness.
Oh.
Looks like Brian.
What kind of a dog is it?
He's a King Charles Cavalier Spaniel.
Oh, how old is that one?
He's about 3 months old.
Oh, jeez.
Sorry, Niles, he really don't look like Brown.
Well, we're glad he could join us. Okay, let's see, we'll now go, Jamie, we weren't gonna forget you, last but not least.
He looks a little weary.
Thank you, ma'am. I've got some information I wanted to share to you. I emailed you all earlier in the week with a quick update on unemployment numbers. Wanted to take a little bit deeper dive into that so we could put some context to a local economic impact for a few different things here. Heather had mentioned in an email to me, you know, she's particularly interested in any information we have about how the current economic situation impacts sales tax collection and your budget planning for next year. So I want to talk a little bit about that. First of all, unemployment data and looking at the numbers for April, which is where we really wanted to see what the true impact of this crisis has been on us. At the end of March, we were at 4.5% unemployment. Now that was up from our year-end 2019 total of 3.4%. So that was a significant increase as of the end of March, but we really hadn't begun to see an impact then, knowing that April really is when we've had the full brunt of the impact from the COVID-19 crisis. Currently, unemployment in Yancey County is at 10.7%. That's quite an increase, and that's pretty stark. If you look at the 7 counties that make up the high country region, and we're all familiar with that, we're faring fairly well in comparison to our peer group. Yancey, Avery, Ashe, and Allegheny counties all have around 10 and change percent unemployment. Wilkes is at 11.6, Watauga is at 11.1, and Mitchell County is at 12.7% unemployment. As bad as that sounds, we've seen a pretty stable situation here. If you compare our unemployment rate with the rest of the state, and particularly some of the larger urban areas. If you look at Buncombe County, which has been terribly hard hit because of the hospitality industry there and other large major layoffs that some of their manufacturing companies are having, Buncombe County went from having a 2.8% unemployment rate to a 17.5% unemployment rate. They went from the lowest unemployment rate in the state to the 4th highest. So in comparison with that, if you look at the state average is 12.5% unemployment. We've not seen massive layoffs. None of our companies, so though some of them have lost jobs by attrition, none of them have filed what we call a warn notice with Commerce to say we're laying people off. So we're fortunate in that regard, though some of our people who commute to work in other places have been laid off through closures or downsizing or furloughs at other places around us. So really it's a regional impact. That's unemployment. So how does that affect us really if we think about what the rest of the year is going to look like? And Heather mentioned in her email to me, you know, something that I know that you and the county folks have both been interested in, which is how does that impact sales? You know, what's happening with regard to what we refer to as GDP, the gross domestic product in the country. You know, are people not spending? What kind of contraction is that? Are people saving? And we've sort of seen probably some of the highest saving rates since 1986. Was on a call with the president, a group conference call that the presidents of the Federal Reserve Banks of Atlanta and St. Louis held last week to give some context to what they saw as a prediction for where we were going the rest of the year. And they had a statistic which was really pretty frightening to underscore how much the economy has contracted in this current quarter. So the current quarter we're in is April through June. GDP has contracted. If you took the contraction in the gross domestic product in the country for that quarter and said it's going to be that for the rest of the year, according to the Federal Reserve Bank, that's a 50% contraction in the U.S. economy. The worst quarter contraction we saw in the Great Recession was 8%. Now, it's hard to see what that impact is going to be because none of the major banks, none of their economists agree. If you look at what Goldman Sachs says, they say, well, it's not that bleak a picture. It's going to be half that bad. Bank of America says, no, it's not going to be bad at all. There's no agreement among any of the major banking houses about what that's going to look like. There is some great guidance that the League of Municipalities has put out, and I don't know if you've looked at their memorandum with regard to impact on local government revenue. And they do a good job of taking into account all of the data that's out there for the economists of the major investment banks. And they really, there's a lot of work that went into the methodology behind. They look at it, they propose 3 ways of looking at sales tax impact. Either you've had a super severe impact, what they call a conservative estimate, severe impact to your sales tax infrastructure, or moderate. Now you can go, I would tell you all to go on their website and read that entire summary. It's a 27-page document. It's pretty detailed. But basically, to sum it up, the assumption is if you want to go with the most conservative budgeting of your sales tax, they're saying that if you figure around 3.2% shrinkage for fiscal year 2021, that's a super conservative estimate. If you wanted to assume that a little bit better than that, sort of the middle of the road assessment, their recommendation is that, you're probably budgeting 2.3% less in sales tax. If you think there's going to be a moderate impact only to the sales tax collection in your local government, then they said actually budget for a 1.5% increase in sales tax. So what does that mean for us? What we've seen for sales tax collection so far, and anecdotally as well, is, in my opinion, the sales tax infrastructure in Yancey County has not been that damaged simply because we don't have major big box retail. Most of our large sales tax generating businesses have continued to operate throughout this. And probably really, if you consider grocery stores and the ABC store, if you looked at your report from them, I'm sure lately, or the wine stores or anybody that's selling food or any essential business that's been open, those sales have been higher. Online sales, which we get point of sale tax distribution on, have been higher just because people aren't traveling to go spend money. In my opinion, and it's just my personal opinion, I don't think that we're going to see a severe impact in sales tax unless our folks don't get back to work throughout the course of the year. We've got 2 things working in our favor, really. Yes, we've got much higher unemployment, but it's not as high as some of the other areas in the state, and we've not had as significant an impact in the closure of our retail establishments that generate the vast majority of our sales tax. But as I say, I certainly would recommend, if you're interested, as you look at your budgeting, to go to the league and read their memo, particularly look at the methodology behind it. It's pretty thorough. And it's not a rosy picture that's painted, but it's certainly, I think, a fair assessment. The other thing is to try to look at how do you target what you think ad valorem collection is going to be. The Association of County Commissioners actually put out a summary chart of how counties were targeting their ad valorem collections. Most of the counties who've not really hammered their budget down yet have just responded to that by saying we anticipate a 0 to 5% reduction in collection rate. But most of the counties who've actually completed their budgets have said we look for a reduction in collection rate somewhere between 0.5% and 1%, not a significant amount. That's assuming that, over the course of the year, that if the recovery happens even at a steady rate, that your collection rate won't be that impaired. The bigger concern, I think, with ad valorem collections is, of course, you guys like the county are used to getting it at a certain time. Cash flow may be more of an impact than what your collections are. But certainly that's where we are as far as unemployment data goes right now. We're all hopeful that that changes and people are able to go back to work. But really, it's kind of reading the tea leaves to figure out, even if folks do go back to work, how soon do they want to spend and be loose with their money, or looser with it. That's something that's really hard to try to predict. Like I said, the Fed has said we're seeing the highest savings rates for personal households since 1986. So folks are, of course, concerned and saving more money than they're spending in several decades. But that's the best data that we have as far as local data on what our economic impact looks like here, particularly in the county, and in comparison to our peer groups. And I just wanted to share that with you for what that might be worth. And I'm happy to take any questions about that or anything else that touches economic development that you might have.
Well, I'm horrified about Buncombe County. I mean, they're suffering, obviously.
Yeah. I had a conference call with that Carolina West group, which are the 7 economic developers for the Asheville metro area, and I was talking to Clark Duncan, my counterpart in Buncombe County, and he said he felt like they were just doing triage there. Really, the larger counties, Henderson has been hit significantly. Transylvania and Haywood, probably, if you look at that Asheville metro area, have all had significant impacts. Madison County is about where we are, impacted, but not as severely. So we've been fortunate that we've not seen major layoffs. And it's just shows you how the ripple effect happens in the economy. People aren't flying. Airlines are concerned about their solvency. Nobody's buying planes. As a result of nobody buying planes, nobody's building planes, and as a result of that, GE Aviation has laid off hundreds of people. They're one of Buncombe County's largest employers, and one of the largest employers in the region. It's not just a benefit to Buncombe County; it is to us regionally, and really that's where we see a lot of our impact. We're at 10%, not because we've seen a lot of furloughs and layoffs in our county, but because so many of our people commute out to work, and those places have laid off.
What about our green name, Greenleaf?
Little Leaf, yeah. I can give you a little bit of an update on that. I'm actually having, I have a conference call scheduled with them tomorrow at 1 o'clock actually to discuss moving forward with their project. We sort of put everything in a holding pattern in regard to moving that forward because they had huge concerns with their current operating facility in Massachusetts, which was very hard hit by COVID there in the greater Boston area. We sort of put this project on the shelf until we could come back to it. They're able to revisit that now. There will be a delay in starting that project, but that project had a JDIG grant from the Department of Commerce. The Department of Commerce has said all of our JDIG grants for 2020, we're just rolling them to 2021. Because those are such large projects usually that there are a lot of moving pieces for our project and others that just ground to a halt.
But it's alive. It's still alive.
It is. Yes, it is. Yes, ma'am.
So are you thinking it will be a good year delay or longer? What are you saying?
I hope not. I hope we can get started. We had hoped to be underway with construction in May. I hope to be there in September or October, I think is realistic. But we'll just see how things go. I'll have a better sense when we talk to them tomorrow to see what they've got going on and sort of where they are. And we can tell from that.
Well, keep us posted.
Absolutely.
Good report, Jamie. Even if it is about bad, well, the money's not coming in like we would like, but that's the way life is right now.
Jamie, do we have any statistics on the number of people that are working outside the county?
I do. I actually asked the folks at Workforce Development Board to provide that information to me. I've not received it from Keith yet up there. but because I'm interested to see where most of our job loss happened. As you say, when I have that, I'll share that with you and share that with the board as well, so you guys can look at that. I better peek at, how that statistic breaks down.
These numbers we're seeing right now would take into account people who were not able to work during phase one, but they're not taking into account people who went back to work in this next phase.
That's correct.
So,
these numbers are through the end of April, which is really what we're hoping is just really the most brutal month of the downturn.
And we also don't really know where this thing is going. If the outbreak intensifies in the fall, we could see more restrictions and more people that maybe have gone back to work but then have to leave again. Unemployment benefits now are higher than what they normally would have been.
Right.
But we had seen numbers from the league early on with the same banks that you talked about, and the numbers were kind of all over the place.
Yeah.
And they, 10% seemed kind of optimistic based on those numbers for sales tax.
Yeah.
So that's where we kind of landed in our budgeting right now, is at that 10% number. And if we get the happy surprise, we'll be glad to make that amendment.
We'll take
But
yeah. Certainly you've made that's a very cautious estimate. I feel like you'll certainly be pleasantly surprised. Of course, they say if you don't ever expect anything, you're always pleasantly surprised, right? So that's probably a good philosophy to have. But I'm hoping, that and the league and county commission association as well have dedicated themselves to try to sort of update that projection as they move along, as data comes in. Which Heather's right, we don't know. What we're projecting now is a certain curve. If there's a spike in infections and companies begin to close, then that curve changes. So it's really difficult for economists and demographers to, I'm sure they're loving it because they're math geeks, but it's crazy for the rest of us to try to have any certainty about what we're predicting.
I don't know how many there are how many graduated in this senior class, but they've got to have jobs or they're going to college, one or the other. So that's a little demographic that's going to add to some figures. But I did talk to a boy today who said he's graduating Friday and he's going to work for Thermo Fisher or whatever it is on Monday. So at least he's got a job.
And we're, if you look at tech, for instance, had a conversation with their business consultant this week, and they're in a situation that a lot of large companies who are doing well are in. They're cautiously optimistic. They don't know what demand is going to look like over their next couple of quarters because they don't know what's going to happen either with the health crisis. And not only that also impacts their supply chain. A lot of the companies that are doing well and will continue to do well, who depend on goods from other places to come in for manufacturing, everything has to work. Alltech was in a situation where they were paying a premium on tariff still from China to begin with. And now not only the availability of that is the ability of it to be exported in the country is also a concern. So, you've got companies who are responsibly saying, we're still, in operation, we're still doing well. Our bottom line looks good. But in order to keep that bottom line healthy, we've got to be cautious about how we plan to continue production. And you're going to see a lot of companies that otherwise would have their foot to the floor on the gas pedal, maybe ease up and say, let's see what's going to happen. And that makes sense.
Okay. Thank you very much, Jamie. And
thanks a bunch. It's a pleasure to be with you as always. Hope you're all doing well.
Well, we are, and it's good to see you doing well. I want to thank all the employees for your good reports, Dylan and Brian up there, and the darling puppy, Miles. You bring him back for the next meeting. And then there's Chad and Leslie and Jeannie. So thank you all, one and all, for your good reports. please note that our meeting on June the 25th, we have a lot of things to look at. It's on your agenda there. So now the public will be allowed to attend this meeting. And Brian and Chad will be in charge of, they'll probably be out there and be, what is the word?
Ushering.
Yes, ushering in. So, but since it is a budget hearing, Heather will kind of navigate that, but they may attend in the flesh. But they'll be out there and we'll be in here, and there you have it. So
Is it at 6 o'clock?
it is at 6 on June 25th. We do not meet in July unless we have to. So our next board meeting will not be the first Thursday in August, but you know, there's generally, that's crafts fair, if I'm not mistaken. So just stay tuned. We'll keep you posted about what's going on with crafts fair. So at any rate, we'll see you on June the 25th here. And like I said, be aware that the public may attend. And having no other business before us, I will ask for a motion to adjourn.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Are we all in agreement? Thank you very much for being here, and we are adjourned.
That's 6.
Hey, Niles, hold up your puppy again.